Hello, welcome to the Back Podcast, Australia's favourite gaming podcast, as voted up by us, the hosts of the Back Podcast, Australia's favourite gaming podcast. It's Monday, the 2nd of May, 2022. For the very first time, I'm Nick Richardson, and today I'm joined by Peter Burns.
Hello, how's it going?
I am excellent, and geek gamer since the late 80s, it's Jessie James.
Hello.
Hello, Jessie. For everyone listening as a podcast, this is the first time that anyone has seen you on this show. So welcome. For viewers, this is the second time that they've seen you on this show today, but we're very excited to have you here. How are you doing?
I am very well. Thank you for having me, guys.
We are very excited. Everything is very blue for you right now.
It is. I realized I matched the chair. That was completely unintentional as well.
Yeah. You have dressed head to toe, like exactly your blue and white chair, blue and white girl. It's a great thing. Very excited to have you here. Now, as usual, when I introduce a guest, I tend to just use their Twitch about me bio. I just want a clarification. Geek gamer since the late 80s. Is that the late 80s? Is that just like when you were born?
Correct.
You're saying that the geek.
I feel like I was
did
born.
You come out of the
I was
womb
born a
reading
gamer.
Lord of the Rings? In the ears.
Pretty much. I think I was playing games as soon as I could pick up a controller. Whether I was doing well or not is probably questionable, but yeah.
And for those who somehow don't know who you are, because you are a staple of the Australian Twitch community, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do on Twitch.
Yeah, I've been on Twitch for seven plus years now. I don't know. My community knows better than I do how long I've been streaming for, but I would say it was about 7 years now that I've been partnered on Twitch, and yeah, I stream pretty much anything that has been. I stream a lot of new releases, a lot of RPGs, and a lot of shooters. No Fortnite and no COD. They're kind of like my two.
It's almost a selling point.
So sorry, guys. I don't actually.
We don't do that here.
I'm really curious to actually check out Fortnite now that they've taken the building out of it, because that was that was definitely.
It's way better now.
I've heard it's great. I still have a bit of like anxiety over going back to it after my experiences with it, but yeah, the building I just couldn't get into it.
I should say though, the only time I've got a solo victory royale was that I hid in someone else's building that they were building to try to kill me, and then they couldn't find me in the building that they made. And so it's really because of building that I was actually successful in that game. So now I never get one ever again. And so finally, what are you playing at the moment? What games are tickling your fancy right now?
I'm trying really hard to play something that isn't Destiny. I've had a lot of friends drag me back into Destiny, and I think just because so many of my friends play it, it's like one of the best games that I have at the moment to play with my mates. So trying to not play that anymore. I've also been trying to get back into Horizon Forbidden West, which I probably played about maybe 10 hours of, and then got dragged into Destiny. So trying really hard to play other games. And Final Fantasy, actually, the new patch for that came out a couple of weeks ago. So I've jumped back into that as well.
Are you like max level in Final Fantasy?
Yes, I'm very much a Final Fantasy nerd. I don't play the really, really hard content, mainly because I kind of get to end game and then I try and go play other games. But yeah, I've been very into that in the last few years. Took a massive hiatus for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then came back in the Shadowbringers expansion, which is the one previous to Endwalker, which just came out. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
You're playing like 2 of the most time-consuming games in the world.
Correct.
And also Horizon, which is one of the biggest video games this year.
Yeah, I don't have, it's hard finding the time. So being a streamer makes that a little bit easier because I get to actually play those games whilst I'm working.
Yep. Very nice.
Well, that feels like a great transition while we're talking about you as a streamer. Let's talk about more streamers as we get into the video game news, because, Pete, this news is not going to break itself. The Backup is presented by one of our Top Stitch patrons and the best evil person we know, the person who lives next door to Jesse with the cat who really messed things up. Sorry, I mean Evil Spy Boy. Evil Spy Boy is who presents The Backup. Get your exclamation mark Spy Boys out in the chat because thanks to his generous Patreon support, Evil Spy Boy is bringing you The Backup and he's hoping you bring the generosity to Food Bank Australia. Food Bank provides regular breakfast to more than 132,000 students at schools across the country. And on top of this, more than 200,000 kids seek food relief from their charities every single month. Donate at foodbank.org.au. There is a link in Nightbot right now and head to tasteofmultifish.com for more on Evil Spy Boy's proclivities. All right, let's back it up and look at the biggest stories of the week as voted on by us, the host of The Backup, where we back up and look at the biggest stories of the week. Jesse, please start us off with a story this week that made you back up and say, what the fuck?
I think it's very appropriate for me to bring up Twitch's new kind of proposed revenue split, as well as just other changes that they're kind of making to the partner program, which apparently could come in as early as summer in the US, but winter for us. But there's also a very good chance they could be completely abandoned. So one of the things is that they are thinking of changing the revenue split for everybody, which to a 50-50 split. So in fact, most of us are already on a 50-50 split for tier 1 subs. If you're a partner at the moment, tier 2 is 60-40 and tier 3 is 70-30. There are a lot of the top streamers that have either negotiated a better split or are on 70-30, and Twitch is basically going to be making that 50-50 across the board. There's also new partnership tiers that they think you're bringing in, so different rates and different requirements depending on certain things that you hit. You can kind of move up those tiers and get a better split, but it won't be just a standard thing anymore. They're also trying to bring in a lot more incentives for ads, which they've already apparently brought in new incentives where you have to opt into it, but you can, if you play, I think it's 2 minutes of ads per hour, you get $100 as a minimum monthly revenue from ads. And then the more of them you play, the more money you'll get for that. So they're trying to really push people being able to play ads during streams. And also to kind of counteract a lot of these changes that they want to bring in, they are thinking of removing the exclusivity for streaming on Twitch. So at the moment, as a partner Twitch streamer, I'm not allowed to be streaming on YouTube or Facebook. And they're thinking of removing that to try to, I guess, balance out these very shitty, as far as I'm concerned, very shitty new proposals that they're bringing in for the partnership program.
Yeah, it all obviously sounds awful for anyone but Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Like, it really is just an easy revenue boost for them. They're all still theoretical. Not necessarily any of this is going to get implemented. There's been a lot of negativity about it, so hopefully that sways any decision that gets made. But bottom line is usually where decisions get made. Nick?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you wonder what has spurred something like this. Amazon famously run basically at a loss. Like they just pump all their money back into their service and their products and everything. We don't know how Twitch is going. From the outside, you think that Twitch is doing incredible because they're really the only game in town when it comes to streaming. There are other services out there, but they're not the first thing you think of when you think of live streaming video games. And this just seems to be super counter to the idea of building the community.
I think,
which might be because they feel like they are the only game in town, and they go, well, if you want to come here, if you want to stream video games, we're really the only place you're going to do it. And so we've kind of got, it's a bit of a catch-22 for you. But I saw a lot of streamers reacting to this over the weekend, and I saw all the news articles were sort of talking about how Twitch's biggest streamers are going to be taking a huge hit. And even so Asmongold, who normally I'm like, I do not really care for that dude. I did see he had a sort of like pretty insightful look at this and said it's not the biggest streamers who are going to be impacted because they can also get tons of money from advertising. they can just, to replace this lost income, run a couple of like sponsorships in their streams and they'll be fine. And the difference from going $600,000 a year to $500,000 a year, even though it is a massive drop in like amount of money, it's not actually going to have a huge impact on their quality of life. The people who this is really going to hit is the sort of people who are at like 1 to 2,000 concurrent viewers, those streamers who have managed to make a full-time job out of this. And the difference then from going, say, $80,000 a year in subs or whatever to $50,000 a year is the difference between being able to do this as a full-time job or not. And it seems like those are the people that Twitch want to encourage to be streaming on their platform. And this is something that totally negates someone wanting to do this as a full-time job, which just seems so counterintuitive.
And I think with a lot of the changes that they have made and things they've done over the last few years, I think streamers are already kind of a little bit upset that they don't seem to be really listening to or caring about the creators on their platform, which in reality are the ones that are making the platform what it is. Like, we're the ones creating the content. It would be really nice for them to actually be implementing stuff that benefits us a little bit more. And like, I understand, you know, they need to make money and whatever it is. But when you look at YouTube, which is really one of their only big competitors, I don't count Facebook, but their revenue split on YouTube has been 70-30 the whole time. And that's something that Twitch streamers have been kind of fighting for a while, for everybody, basically, so that it was 70-30 across the board. And I think that's just it. If they're going to keep removing incentives for people to want to be streaming on the platform, it makes it really hard already with how saturated the platform is for small streamers to come in and actually make something of themselves on the platform. But it's also kind of removing any more incentive for them to be really pushing for that growth. And I think it's just sad because, yeah, we are the ones that have kind of made the platform what it is. We're the ones that are creating the content for them. Without the streamers and without the community there would be no Twitch. But I think not having any competition has kind of meant that they can sort of just do whatever they want and people can be as upset about it as they want. But people are probably still going to be streaming on Twitch because there's not really a lot of other alternatives, in all honesty. Which is
yeah, totally. And like, we saw so many streamers leave Twitch to go to, I mean, when Mixer was a thing, but then also to YouTube or Facebook and stuff. And then generally they just end their deal there and then come back to Twitch. So there is that thing of like, what is that?
I found this in my cupboard the other day. It is a Mixer fidget spinner that I must have gotten a few years ago. RIP Mixer. So I'm literally just keeping this as a sort of reminder of what happens when people try to compete with Twitch, and that went horribly wrong for them. And now Twitch kind of doesn't have any kind of competition whatsoever. So they're just like, it's kind of a big fuck you, in all honesty, to all of the creators on the platform.
It's like a real life NFT.
It is, right? This is going to be worth a lot of money one day. No, it isn't, but
it is. Like Pete said, it'll be interesting to see if this stuff actually goes through. There has been no positive sentiment. I mean, the only positive thing was the idea that you can stream on other platforms as well. That's the only thing, which also, again, I go like, let that happen anyway.
I just don't think that's a really viable thing. Like, if you're streaming on more than one platform in one go, as a streamer, like, I'm already interacting with a chat and trying to play a game. Am I supposed to be interacting with two different chats that aren't like communicating with each other? So I feel like that's a really awkward sort of situation as it is, especially for the community. For me, it's just twice as much that I have to pay attention to outside of the game. But then what's the other option? To be streaming twice as much and streaming separately on Twitch and then going and streaming on YouTube? Like, it's already such a, like, when I look at how much streamers, I think some people do really stream literally, 6-7 days a week. Some people are streaming for like 10 plus hours at a time. It's extremely taxing, and it's not really the best thing for someone's mental health to feel like they have to be streaming that much just to really be making enough money on the platform, let alone to have to then split that time between two different platforms. It makes it much harder to then build a community, I guess, on that singular platform. It's like, I feel like that's just, again, not benefiting the streamers at all, whether Twitch thinks that that's their way of counteracting all these changes. It's just not really viable.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what happens with this one, but I know that no one is happy, and hopefully there's some listening to this. But then at the end of the day, like, business is business, and money just generally wins out 98% of the time. Rarely do any big businesses do something just out of the goodness of their hearts. So we'll see where this one lands. Pete, what story made you back up this week?
So Bungie are currently trying to. They're in a legal battle with a cheat developer called AIM Junkies. AIM Junkies have developed a bunch of kind of cheats for PvP in Destiny, and Bungie suffered a setback in their case against them. Sorry, Jess. I think maybe if your headphones get turned down or something, we're still getting kind of fold back into your mic.
How weird. Okay, yeah, no, is that better?
Checking. Echo. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
It's very sensitive if I'm close enough to the microphone, but as soon as things are this far away, we're good. So yeah, I've just turned it down a little bit.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you. So Destiny, Bungie, have taken legal action against AIM Junkies for copyright and trademark infringement, as well as breach of contract. AIM Junkies have argued back that they developed the code, they wrote all the code for the cheats, and therefore it's not Bungie's code. And a US judge agreed that was true. So it's in a little bit of a setback. Bungie is still taking legal action on the copyright infringement. They're selling Destiny 2 content. But it's a weird, it's just, and the reason I bring this up is because, these legal battles happen all the time, and people who have a live PvP game are constantly developing, fighting against cheats, because cheat codes cheat apps are constantly getting developed, and then they're finding new ways to hack into the game, and then the developer needs to work on a solve for that. And it's just, it shouldn't be easy for a big company like Bungie to shut down a small company if they're doing the right thing. AIM Junkies are clearly bad faith actors, but it also means they can get away with some stuff because of the way the legal system is built to protect smaller people from bigger people as well. So it's just like, it's part of the tapestry of why are there cheats in your game? It's not as easy as going like, cheats aren't allowed anymore.
Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know if Burry's here, but totally. The issue is there should just be a law that says you're not allowed to cheat at a video game. And if you are, you have to stop that. Because going after you stole our code, and then those people being like, no, we wrote this all ourselves, is just like a massive fuck you. Plus, and again, not a lawyer, but to me, this introduces some sort of Ashley Judd double jeopardy situation where it's like, all right, can we now get these people shut down? Or is it like, that's it? There was one ruling and it's done. You mentioned the idea that like developers, the cat and mouse, this is like the live service game, Rainbow Six Siege, COD, Fortnite, Destiny. Those are the games that we play, and the game that developer plays is this sort of meta game with cheaters and their community and them. The one that I saw last week that I think is the best solution I've seen so far is Call of Duty implementing a new part of their anti-cheat software, is that if it flags a cheater, that cheater is still able to play the game, but they cannot see enemies, hear enemies, or see bullets. And everyone else in the game can see them. So the cheater is basically running around a map with no one else on it, and then just getting shot because they don't see anyone anywhere. They can't hear anyone. And so it's actually like, if you see someone in your game wandering around kind of lost, shooting at things that aren't there, like that person is either incredibly new at COD or is actually being like flagged in the cheating software. And I think that's like an awesome solve to sort of like.
It's so not a solve though. Like it's still.
It's not. No, it's you know what I mean. Like an awesome thing.
Yeah. I mean, punishment in the form of banning the account is like ultimately a hard thing to navigate, because They create new accounts. They're using VPNs so that their IP is not IP bannable. It's just this never-ending battle. And so for developers to find joyous ways for themselves to mess with people who are messing with the rest of their player base is always a nice thing. Yeah.
It is a really hard thing to police because, you can only IP ban somebody so many times, and VPNs exist. It's a really easy thing to get around, but it just ruins. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I know a lot of people don't play PvP in Destiny if they're on PC, is just because of the amount of cheaters that they come across. And yeah, it ruins the vibe. It ruins the game for other people who, are doing the right thing, but it's a really hard thing to police. With Final Fantasy, for example, they have made it illegal to sell accounts and to basically be selling money on your account for real world money. And that's a much easier thing, I guess, for people to police because your account is linked to like payment, like your credit cards and whatever it is. But yeah, with Destiny and I guess cheating in a PvP game, it is much harder to kind of do something about that and to find the person who is doing the cheating in the first place.
I find it so wild how prevalent it is as well because, I see like on Reddit, someone goes like, or on Twitter, it's like this top streamer, and I'm not going to remember the names because I don't know anyone who streams except for Jess, who was like, this top streamer got caught cheating. They alt-tabbed because they got some system notification or whatever, and your wall hack just appeared in front of your stream because you're doing a display capture or whatever. It's like people who were like the most successful COD streamer online or whatever in Warzone. It's like, no, he was cheating the whole time. He's cheating. Why?
Yeah,
I mean, that talks to the pressure of streamers having to perform constantly just to make a living on this goddamn platform. So he felt like he needed to cheat just to get along.
Exactly. He's got a mannequin dressed up as him. Yeah. He's got a hat and a wig, and then he's just off sleeping while he's live, just so he can make the most of this 50-50 cut.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is too, like when getting around, like I guess. Cheat these programs that have people paying them to, I guess, have codes that allow them to cheat in the game. They catch up so quickly. It doesn't matter what games are implementing these days. They very openly will sort of advertise that within a week of a new anti-cheat software being brought in that they've already gotten around it. So yeah, it's pretty hard for even games that are implementing those anti-cheat things to catch up with this stuff.
Yeah, because they're coders, developers, hackers, like the people who make this stuff. This is what they do. And also they're dedicated enough to want to do this. So that's all they do. They just spend a bunch of time like trying to break it. So it's like as much time as the developers are putting into doing this, you've got all these other people equally as dedicated to breaking it. And so it's just this constant battle, which does suck. And, this is kind of bad news for Bungie as well.
Yeah. And just, back to that case, I do like that, Aim Junkies got caught out because, the case continues on a copyright infringement or breach of trademark case because they used the phrase Destiny 2 hacks on their website to sell the product. So it's like,
yeah, right.
Gotcha, assholes.
It's pretty solid.
I'm sure they'll get their comeuppance from that. So.
And then my big story for this week is a report going around, according to Game Developer, that PlayStation has updated its developer guidelines to state that a game demo lasting at least 2 hours will now be required for any title that costs $34 or more. And this is going to be apparently part of the new PlayStation Plus Premium subscription that we will be able to get limited timed game trials for new titles. And I think this is awesome. When both PlayStation and Xbox launched their next-gen consoles, Xbox went very hard on just the idea of like, it's just a box because Game Pass is the thing that we actually want from you. The Xbox is just kind of like a powerful console that will allow you to play all these games that we put on Xbox. And there weren't a ton of things about the Xbox that was kind of like, oh, this is so new and revelatory and that sort of thing. PlayStation went the other way and went, well, we're equally as powerful. We're going to have a bunch of stuff in here that's like cool new tech, like the DualSense with the controller vibration, the haptic feedback. There was the sort of like built-in guide stuff that I thought would be really cool, and then just has never been used, about the idea of like you can jump to specific parts of a game from the main menu, or like if you get lost, you can bring up some sort of walkthrough to be able to like show you where to go. Had all this stuff in there that was like, oh, this will be really cool. And then a lot of it has just kind of fallen by the wayside. And Xbox have been doing really well with Game Pass, really well with one of the things I use the most on my Xbox that I never thought I would is preloading games, of just being able to like preload basically anything. And then when it comes out, I'm just instantly playing it. Phenomenal.
Yeah, that's massive.
It's so good. And this is the first thing that PlayStation have done in ages where I'm like, oh, this is a really just consumer-centric, awesome move. We don't know which games, like it says for $34 US dollars or more. I am assuming that also means third-party titles, like everyone kind of needs to do this, which is potentially a bit of a pain in the ass for anyone putting out a game, that you have to implement some sort of like timed version of your game that will be, I assume, some sort of additional work. But
that said, when we have all the media events and stuff, there's already little builds that they've got for that as like demos. I'm sure that they'd probably just be using those kinds of things and cutting them off somewhere, kind of thing, you know?
Totally, or whether there's something in the system of the PlayStation where you can go, okay, well, you can just preload this game basically, and then at this point, PlayStation is just going to expire the license, and go, no matter where you're up to, you can't do this anymore.
That feels like
that's a big tease, but also if it's going to give people a chance to play the game and see what they're getting, because I still think it doesn't matter what game it is. I find sometimes YouTube videos or gameplay videos quite hard to gauge what a game's really going to be like. I've still found that Twitch can be one of the best places to get a real feel for that, because you're watching a real person play the game in real time. And that to me is still the best way, I think, for me to get a gauge of a game other than playing it myself. So if this is going to give people a chance to actually play the game themselves and make that decision themselves without having to fork the money out. I know Switch already has a lot of games that they do demos for. A lot of their kind of, especially like the AAA titles and stuff, you can just download a demo, and that's been a thing on the Switch or on Nintendo, I guess, consoles for quite a while. That was back even before the Switch came out. They were doing that sort of stuff. Yeah,
and like the good thing about some of those demos on Switch have been the save carries through to the game if you choose to buy it, and I think PlayStation need to do that. And I think while it sounds good, it almost sounds like it doesn't sound like they are doing it from the system end. They're asking developers to put in the work to build these demos, and it is work. It's particularly in the lead up to. I mean, games are getting delayed all the time. They got enough bloody work on their plate. Building something like this is a team that needs to prepare it. I think the expiring license is the smartest way to get the most volume of demos into that play style, and it would mean that those saves carry through. I think it's such a big incentive to go from demo to purchase that, the 2 hours that I just spent playing this thing means something, as opposed to playing a vertical slice that was an E3 demo or whatever, and then going, if I want to start this, I start the game 3 hours before this moment, and I need to play all over again to get up to this point. So
I think EA's actually implemented stuff like that previously as well. Not necessarily with all their games, but it was sort of like a timed, you get 2 hours, and then it basically cuts you off. But if you buy the game, it just picks up where you left off.
Yeah. They've had great EA stuff with they had 10-hour trials for some things, and it's kind of like you could, in terms of sports games or something, you could go, that's kind of as much as I wanted to play FIFA 22. That's awesome.
I've always said EA is one of the most consumer-friendly companies in the gaming space.
And they have been historically. I think that definitely the idea of the time demo the save carrying over, I think, is really important. And also, I think as well, even though it might be annoying at the beginning, I like the idea of just being able to download the whole game and then you basically just like unlock the license if you buy it and then you can keep playing. Trying to make it as frictionless as possible to get. They just want you to basically like pay to get this game, but if you can just like, you're enjoying this, unlock this thing, and then keep going. I think that's awesome, and more stuff like this, because I really miss the demo disc days of being able to like test out a bunch of things. And with something like this, it's also a unique thing that is not offered on Xbox. Obviously, Game Pass is quote unquote a bunch of free games, but this being like, if every game that comes out on a PlayStation has a demo, then that's a huge incentive to go, okay, well, I'm going to like test this out here. I've already got it downloaded on this console. Okay, fine. I'll just like hit the buy now button and then I'll end up playing it on PlayStation as opposed to something else, which I think is really cool. And just very quickly as well, the other thing that they've done in the last week is that they're adding have added the variable refresh rate as well for PlayStation 5.
I heard about this.
Which the Xbox has as well, which if you own a HDMI 2.1 television or monitor is actually really, really cool. It's kind of like, it's basically G-Sync on PC, but on a console. It makes a really big difference in terms of it just having a very smooth, immersive gameplay experience. And again, this was something where it was like, why is this not on PlayStation, but is just, because it is just a piece of software update, essentially. They're not walking around installing new HDMI ports in every single PlayStation that came out. So this is another thing that sort of puts them on parity to something that Xbox have been doing for a while. So good strides coming from PlayStation over the last couple of weeks in terms of doing things for people who own PlayStation 5s. Now all they need to do is make some more video games to actually put out on their console. That would be great too. And speaking of video games coming out, we got a couple of announcements and one delay. Modern Warfare 2 got confirmed. Infinity Ward confirmed. This thing that I feel like has been confirmed for months, which is that they are making the next Call of Duty, and it's going to be called Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, exactly like their previous game, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that came out. The Call of Duty brand right now, it's all just so fucked. So we are getting that. And then also GamesBeat, Jeff Grubb confirmed that according to him, this hasn't been confirmed by Respawn, but the new Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sequel is going to be targeting a 2023 launch and will be skipping previous gen consoles in favor of PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC release. And it also will not have the Fallen Order moniker. So it's just going to be
Star Wars Jedi something.
Yeah, Star Wars Jedi.
That's in line with Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, the games of old.
And looking forward to that one. That one was... Jess, did you play or enjoy Fallen Order?
Yes, I absolutely loved Fallen Order. I played it through twice on stream. And the second time I played it on the hardest difficulty. Considering I'm playing Horizon at the moment, I love really combat sort of focused games where the combat can be easy if you play it on an easy difficulty, but it can be hard to master. And I find Horizon very much like that. I also found Ghost of Tsushima to be very much like that as well. And yeah, I absolutely loved the combat in Fallen Order. I love the length of the game. The story itself is brilliant. I honestly, it's one of those games that I find it really hard to criticize it or find things that I didn't like about it. It was brilliant. And considering what sort of some of the other Star Wars games that had come out around then, is it Battlefront? Was a mess. Yes. And I'm a Battlefield girl, so let's not talk about 2042. But Battlefront was, the first one was not great, and then the second one, in my opinion, was not great. It just felt like a very childish sort of version of a Battlefield game. So then Fallen Order came out, and it was just incredible. Especially if you love the Star Wars universe as well. I think they did a really good job of kind of adding to that without having to take too much from what already existed in the universe. Yeah.
Though they did lean on one of the biggest pillars of the Star Wars universe, ultimately, which it still shits me that they just can't get away from that saga. But
yeah, I think we're done with that now, right? Though, like from here on, I feel like the Star Wars stuff coming out is hopefully
they'll find a way.
I just want unique stuff. Like Mandalorian was great, but
there is no way a young Luke Skywalker does not appear in this game. And it's 100% young Mark Hamill is turning up in whatever this game is called. The game will be called Star Wars Jedi CGI Mark Hamill. Yeah. But I'm excited for that one as well. And then we also got a delay, and the delay is not for a game, but for a movie, and that is the Mario movie. This tweet was the best tweet that came out last week on the official Nintendo account. Quote, "This is Miyamoto. After consulting with Chris Sun, my partner in Illumination on the Super Brothers film, we decided to move the global release to spring 2023, April 28th in Japan and April 7th in North America. My deepest apologies, but I promise it will be worth the wait." And you can't say anything more about this tweet than they did last week, except for the fact that I just don't understand, and I think it's beautiful. It's like I'm sure there's a cultural reason behind this, or they wanted to personalize this piece of information, but it's almost like they needed to do this, say that this is Miyamoto thing, in case someone thought that like the Nintendo account had been hacked, and they like it came from a blue check Nintendo account that only ever talks about Nintendo news. And when I read that, I was just like, I don't need to. In fact, this is weird because I assume Miyamoto is not physically typing this. So this is Miyamoto is something that may have been written or transcribed at some point, but was not actually written on Twitter.
You think there's some Weekend at Bernie's going on, and Miyamoto is actually dead, and someone's puppeting him to write tweets.
Yeah, and
hello,
and they've
my
gone,
name is Miyamoto.
Exactly. I need to make this very obvious. So yeah, is there any? I feel like we knew nothing about the Mario film except for the casting. So to me, this movie doesn't even exist in my head. I haven't seen a trailer, so like, who cares if it got delayed? Cool, delay it. Try to make it as good as it possibly can be.
Yeah,
I think considering what a lot of game to film and television adaptations have been like, I would rather they just took as much time as they possibly could, because it's probably still not going to be that great in the grand scheme of things. I just have no faith anymore when it comes to these sorts of adaptations. That said, I'm really enjoying Halo. I'm really enjoying Halo. I've stopped listening to my massive lore nerd friends, and I'm kind of accepting this silver timeline. My biggest gripes are normally with like the CGI lighting. And some of the weapons look like they've been 3D printed and then they've added no weight to them. So like, it just looks like they're kind of carrying and handling pieces of plastic. But other than that, I'm actually really enjoying it, and I'm really surprised that I am, because most of these things tend to not be the best. Uncharted was not great. The most recent Resident Evil movie that's come out, I love the game references. The movie itself is not actually a very
Monster
good
Hunter?
movie.
Did you see Monster Hunter?
Not good. That was not good either. The Witch has been great. I must say, I kind of just didn't care enough about the second season. I don't know. But that's actually probably one of the only other ones that I'm sort of, think is actually
get a good story out of a book.
Yeah.
There is also a synopsis of the film floating around, which Jeff Grubb again sort of read out on his Grub Snack show earlier last week. So, and it's been confirmed from a couple of places. So, go find that if you want. The only thing I'll say is it's a musical, which I was not actually expecting, but there you go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there is a reveal at the end credits of that film, which is like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Go find that if you're interested in the plot of the Mario movie, since you're not going to be able to watch it anytime soon. And that is literally all the video game news that happened this week. There's nothing else you need to know.